This is not a dream. Your long, long wait has ended.
Got to run.
Less than 8 minutes remained. The Knicks were down 10, on the road in San Antonio. One more collapse, and a 53-year championship drought would stay alive. Then Jalen Brunson took control. 10 straight points erased the deficit. The guard picked 33rd. The player initially expected to compliment Luka Doncic. Now he was deciding the most important game New York had played in decades. He would finish that night with 45 points. Subscribe now, because this story is one of the most underrated turnarounds in basketball history. But the strangest part wasn't what Brunson did that night. It was how a player who had won at nearly every level had spent so much of his career being told there was a limit to what he could become. So how did an overlooked second-round guard become the leader New York trusted to end 53 years of disappointment? New York had not won a championship since 1973. Multiple generations of Knicks fans grew up, grew old, and never saw it happen. Brunson didn't end that drought alone. He became the player the Knicks finally built an entire roster around. The right decisions, made late, around the right man. To understand how, we have to go back to the game that changed his value. The contract dispute that still divides two fan bases, and the losses that forced New York to become something more complete than a team led by one very good guard. It starts on draft night, in 2018, when Brunson's second-round selection revealed exactly how NBA evaluators viewed his professional ceiling.
The 33rd pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Jalen Brunson.
By the time Brunson reached the 2018 NBA Draft, winning was the most consistent thing about him. He'd won an Illinois State championship in high school. He'd captained the U.S. team to a FIBA U19 world title and been named tournament MVP. At Villanova, he won 2 NCAA championships and left as the consensus National Player of the Year. 32 players were drafted ahead of him. Dallas took Brunson 33rd. His draft position wasn't caused by a lack of success. Scouting reports generally praised his intelligence, his strength, his shooting, his decision-making, and his poise under pressure.
Approaches the game like a coach, thinks like a coach, and he plays like a coach.
The concerns were physical. Evaluators questioned his size, his length, his explosiveness, whether he could consistently create separation or defend bigger, faster NBA guards. Those concerns were based on real limitations. What most teams underestimated was something harder to measure: how far footwork, balance, and patience could carry a player who refused to be limited by them. And on the same night Dallas found him in the second round, the Mavericks had already traded for the player they believed would define their next decade, Luka Doncic. Brunson arrived in the NBA as a support piece for someone else's franchise. That wasn't a slight, it was simply the plan. For 4 years, that plan held. Then one series broke it open.
Pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, Luka Doncic.
Dallas was Doncic's team, and there was nothing strange about that. He was already an All-NBA centerpiece. Brunson's job was to make the offense function around him, a role he handled well, with no public friction between the two guards. Then, in the first round of the 2022 playoffs, Doncic went down with injury before a series against Utah even began. Dallas lost Game 1 without him. Game 2, the ball went to Brunson. He scored 41 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. Dallas won 110-104. But the box score wasn't even the real story. What happened in that gym changed how the entire league saw him. For one night, everyone watching saw something they hadn't fully accounted for. Brunson could run a playoff offense by himself. Against a defense built specifically to stop him, Dallas reached the Western Conference Finals that spring. Brunson averaged 21.6 points across the postseason. It wasn't just one great performance. It was proof his ceiling had never been where evaluators assumed it was. But basketball value doesn't move at the same speed as a contract. Brunson had just shown the league what he was worth, and Dallas hadn't locked him in yet.
Told ESPN that the NBA is investigating the Knicks for...
Well, Roz, this wasn't a huge surprise that the NBA is looking into this Jalen Brunson signing with the Knicks.
What happened next is still disputed, and it's worth being honest about that, instead of picking a side. Brunson and his family later said he would have accepted an extension worth around $55 to $56 million before that playoff breakout changed his price. Mark Cuban disagreed. He said Dallas was never given a real, final opportunity to negotiate once free agency opened. The full record of who offered what, and when, has never been settled publicly. Here's what we know for certain. Dallas didn't get a deal done before Brunson's value rose.
Me and Mark have had plenty of conversations. I don't say plenty, I'll say
couple.
That's what you have to do in that situation. When you're giving up size, you have to go out there and come out there with the right type of energy.
Wasn't quite the way it was set up, right? Because they wanted us to come to New York, and we were like, okay, but what are we going to decide?
He hit free agency. He signed with New York for 4 years and $104 million. The NBA later stepped in. It found the Knicks had discussed terms with Brunson before league rules allowed it, and rescinded New York's 2025 second-round pick as punishment. That ruling confirms early contact happened. It doesn't confirm exactly when Brunson made up his mind. Dallas gave Brunson his NBA beginning. New York gave him complete control of a franchise that hadn't won in decades. He answered fast. In his first season, he helped the Knicks beat Cleveland in the first round, New York's first playoff series win since 2013. He became an all-star, an all-NBA level guard, the undisputed head of the offense. Then came 2024, and the cost of it all. Injuries tore through the Knicks roster during the playoffs. In Game 7 against Indiana, Brunson fractured his left hand in an elimination loss. He had the ball, he had the responsibility, and as the face of the team, he was now the player tied to every breakthrough and every painful ending. Brunson's career changed because one team finally trusted him with more than a supporting role. Which player do you think could have become something greater if the right team had simply believed in him sooner? Put that name in the comments and subscribe, because this channel tells the stories behind the decisions that quietly reshape basketball history. The real question about Brunson had already been answered. He could lead. The harder question was whether New York could build something around him strong enough to finish the job. The front office responded aggressively. Josh Hart brought rebounding, energy, and relentless transition play. OG Anunoby brought elite, switchable defense. Then New York gave up a massive package to land Mikal Bridges. 5 first-round picks, gone in a single trade, adding durability and another reliable scoring option. But the roster still had gaps. So New York kept moving. Karl-Anthony Towns arrived next, sent from Minnesota in a deal that sent out Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo.
Brunson and Towns, the two-man game. Towns lines up his...
He brought size. He brought floor spacing. He brought a legitimate second scoring threat next to Brunson. None of these were reunions for nostalgia's sake. Every piece filled a hole that had been exposed in an earlier playoff defeat. The organization made its commitment formal too. Brunson was named the 36th captain in Knicks history. In July 2024, he signed a 4-year, $156.5 million extension, choosing security now over a shot at a much larger deal a year later, one that hadn't been offered and wasn't guaranteed. The new-look Knicks reached the 2025 Eastern Conference Finals. Indiana beat them in 6 games. Afterward, Brunson was asked directly whether Tom Thibodeau was still the right coach. "Yes. Come on," he said. The Knicks fired Thibodeau anyway. It's easy to call that decision cold. It's more accurate to call it a gamble. Thibodeau had rebuilt this franchise from irrelevance into a contender. But New York had decided that getting close wasn't enough anymore. Had the Knicks just discarded the coach who saved them? Or found the last piece they needed to finish the job? Mike Brown didn't inherit a rebuilding project. He inherited a team already built to contend. His job was to sharpen what Thibodeau had built. More flexible lineups, smarter bench usage, closer management of his starters' workload. The first sign it was working came fast. New York beat San Antonio 124-113 in the 2025 NBA Cup Final. Brunson scored 25 with 8 assists and was named tournament MVP. That win felt like a preview. Nobody knew yet how much that name, San Antonio, would matter again. The 2026 playoffs tested this group immediately. New York fell behind Atlanta 2-1 in the first round, exactly the kind of moment that had buried Knicks teams before. This time, they won 3 straight. Then they swept Philadelphia. Then they swept Cleveland, with Brunson taking home Eastern Conference Finals MVP, as New York returned to the championship round for the first time since 1999. Their winning streak reached 13 games before San Antonio finally stopped it in Game 3 of the finals. What was different about this team wasn't just talent, it was composure. Earlier Knicks teams had cracked the moment adversity hit. This one lost a single game without losing its grip on the series. New York had already beaten San Antonio once that season, for a trophy that mattered. The next one carried 53 years of consequences.
It's amazing how quiet.
Game 4 came first, and it nearly didn't happen the way it should have. New York fell behind by 29 points. Then it clawed all the way back, completing the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. Brunson scored 36. Anunoby scored 33, and in the final seconds, he tipped in a missed shot of Brunson's to win it.
Brunson gets it, fires up a three. Shot no good, the chip is gone!
107 to 106. It wasn't one man's brilliance. It was a team that refused to let a possession die. Then came Game 5, the night we opened with. Down 83 to 73 with fewer than 8 minutes left, Brunson scored 10 straight to tie it. Part of a longer run where he produced 13 of New York's 15 points down the stretch. He finished with 45, 29 after halftime, 15 in the fourth quarter alone. New York won 94 to 90. The series ended 4-1. Brunson averaged 32.6 points across the finals and was named Finals MVP. The Knicks closed the postseason 16-3. The numbers matter, but what mattered more was what they represented. A player the franchise trusted completely when the game shrank down to its hardest, smallest moments. And a roster built around Towns, Anunoby, Bridges, and Hart, coached by Brown on a foundation Thibodeau laid first, that made sure he never had to do it by himself. New York's first championship since 1973 didn't belong to one man. It belonged to everyone who helped build the version of Brunson capable of carrying it. After the season, Brunson had surgery on his left wrist. He's expected to resume basketball activity later this summer. A quiet reminder that even a champion's story doesn't fully pause. Jalen Brunson didn't get taller after 2018. He didn't suddenly become faster, or more explosive, or a different kind of athlete than the one scouts measured that spring. He became better at controlling the moments that decide games. And he became someone an entire organization was finally willing to build around. Dallas gave him his beginning. New York gave him its history to carry. And slowly, imperfectly, through injuries and a disputed exit and one enormous coaching risk, the Knicks assembled a team capable of standing beside him instead of behind him. His legacy was never really about proving the doubters wrong. It's about what happens when an organization finally sees the right qualities in a leader and has the patience to build around them. New York spent decades searching for the biggest possible savior. Its nightmare ended when it finally recognized the right one. What changed this story more? Dallas failing to lock Brunson in early, or New York trusting him to lead? Tell us in the comments and subscribe for the next story worth remembering.